Hello, third grade, and welcome to lesson 9-6. In this lesson, we're going to review the strategies that we learned to be able to add and subtract. So we're going to watch our short video lesson that's going to help us remember the strategies that we've used. And then we'll go over our notes and guided practice where we practice those strategies some more.
How can you use strategies to add and subtract? There are 136 fewer cell phone towers in Jurlo County than in Fraser County. How many cell phone towers are there in Jurlo County? Choose a strategy and then solve. 402 is about 400. 136 is about 100. The difference is about 300. You can use a bar diagram to show this problem. You can use addition or subtraction to solve. Addition and subtraction are inverse operations. Use the adding on strategy. Start at 136. Add 200. Then add 60. Then add 6 to get 402. How many cell phone towers are there in Jurlo County?
Select your answer.
$200 plus 60 plus 6 equals 266. There are 266 cell phone towers in Jurlo County. You can also use partial differences to subtract. Subtract 100 from 402. Then subtract 30. Then subtract 2. Then subtract 4. There are 266 cell phone towers in Jurlo County.
All right, so now you looked at two different strategies where you can solve the same problem using inverse operations. So we know that addition and subtraction are inverses of each other. And we know that when we're using the same numbers, they're also part of the same fact family. So you can go about it both ways. So in order to use different strategies, you can use bar diagrams to show your equations. You can estimate by rounding or using compatible numbers to figure out around what number your answer should be. You can use a number line to add and subtract with place values, either by counting on or counting backwards. You can use partial sums and differences to solve, or you can stack and regroup to add and subtract. So we're going to look at all of these different ways using two different equations. So I'm using those strategies in this column to add. I'm using those strategies in this column to subtract. So we have two different problems that we're going to be working on here. Now, in our strategies to add, we have the equation 560 plus 144, and I need to figure out how to find the sum of those numbers. So the first strategy I use here is a bar diagram. 560 and 144 are both parts of a whole. Next, I estimated. So 560 and 140, I estimated rounding to the nearest 10. So since 560 was already a group of 10, that stayed the same. 144 rounded down to 140. So 560 plus 140 gave me 700. My next strategy was to use a number line. So I started at 560, and then I added place values at a time. I added the 100, that got me to 660. I added the 40, that got me to 700, and then I added the 4, that got me to 704. So here I can see that 704 and 700 are close to each other, so I know that my estimate was a good estimate. Now we also have using partial sums. So 560 plus 144, I broke it apart into 100 and 40 and 4. 560 plus 100 was 660. 660 plus 40 gave me 700. 700 plus 4 gave me 704. Or I could stack and regroup. 0 and 4 is 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. So I put my 0 here and I carry my 1. 1 plus 5 plus 1 gave me 7. Now I did the same thing here using subtraction. No. So when I'm subtracting, the equation that I worked with here is to find the difference of 400 minus 219. So 400, since it's my whole number, is going to go on top of my bar diagram. I know 219 is one part, and then I have another part that is my missing part. So I can estimate, and I rounded here to the nearest 100. So 400 was already a group of 400 minus 200. So 219 rounded down to 200. So my estimate is 200. So my real answer should be close to 200. Next, I used a number line to count backwards. So I started at 400. I subtracted my hundreds group. So minus 200 got me to 200. Minus the 10 got me to 190. And then minus another 9 got me to 181. Here you can see that I wrote it out as a subtraction using those individual place values. I broke apart 219 into 210 and 9. So 400 minus 200 was 200. 200 minus 10 was 190. 190 minus 9 was 181. Here we can see where I was stacking and subtracting. So I had to regroup. I couldn't do 0 minus 9, so I had to borrow from this one. I didn't have anything here, so I had to go farther and borrow from the hundreds. So this would have been, this became a 3. This 10 would have became a 9, so that I could break one of those 10s apart into 10 ones. And so this became a 10. So now I have 10 ones. 10 take away 9 is 1. 9 take away 1 is 8. And 3 take away 2 was 1. That way I was able to get to 181 here as well. All right, let's take a look at one more example and then hop into our guided practice. So here my example question is 305 minus 178. So always when we're working with a subtraction and we draw a bar diagram, our whole number, our big number, is the number that's on top. 178 is one part of it, and I have to figure out what the missing part is. So I made my estimate. I rounded to the nearest 100. 305 became 300. 178 became 200. So 300 take away 200 gave me 100. I used a number line. So I took away 305 minus the 100 gave me 205. 205 take away 70 gave me 135. Then I took away the 5 and then the 3. So I broke it apart not just into 170 and 8. Since there was a 5 in that one's place, I took away 5 and then 3 to make the 8. So 135 minus 5 got me down to 130. 130 minus 3 got me down to 127. Now, if I'm stacking to subtract, 305 minus 178, I can't do 5 minus 8, so I have to borrow a group of 10 to make it 15. Now, over here, there wasn't a group of 10, so I had to go farther and borrow from the hundreds. So that 300 became 200. And then we put 10 tens in the tens place. Now, I needed to take one of those tens and break it into one. So it wasn't 10 tens here anymore. Now it was 9 tens. 15 take away 8 gave me 7. The 9 tens that were left over minus the 7 tens gave me 2 tens. And then 2 minus 1 gave me 1. So here I also got to 127. Now for our guided practice, number 1 says to subtract 507 minus 348. How can you regroup the tens if there are 0 tens? Well, we're going to have to regroup all the way out to the hundreds by breaking one of the hundreds into 10 tens and then regrouping one of those tens into 10 ones. So over here, you can see what I did. I couldn't do 7 minus 8, so I needed a group of 10, but there was nothing here. So I went even farther to the hundreds. Instead of having 5 hundreds, I broke apart one of my hundreds. So now I had 4 hundreds and 10 tens. Now that there were 10 tens over here, I could borrow a group of them to add to my 7 ones. So my 10 tens became 9 tens, and my 7 ones became 17 ones. And I was able to stack and subtract that way. Now I had enough pieces. For number 2, how is using partial sums to add, like using place value blocks or base 10 blocks and regrouping? Both strategies tell you to add one place value at a time. So you're working with one group at a time. You're working with the hundreds and the tens and then the ones, or the ones and then the tens and the hundreds. But you're doing each one separately. Now for numbers 3 through 6, we were asked to come up with an estimate, and then to find our actual answer. So for number 3, our numbers were 816 minus 355. So 816 minus 355, I rounded over here to the hundreds and I listed it for you. It became 800 minus 300, which gave me 500. So then I stacked and subtracted. 6 take away 5 is 1. I couldn't do 1 take away 3, so I had to borrow a group of 10 here. I had to regroup. So this became 11 take away 3, which is 8. And now this, since this was a 7, 7 take away 3 gave me 4. So 481 is close to 500. So I know my answer is correct. Next, for number 4, I had 163 plus 50. So I rounded to the nearest 10. 160 plus 50 gave me 210. When I added, 3 plus 0 is 3, 6 plus 5 is 11. So I put my 1 here and I regrouped my group of 10 up there. So 1 and 1 gave me 2. 213 is close to 210. So my answer here is correct as well. Next, I had 900 take away 375. So I stuck with my 100. So 900 minus 400, 375 rounded up to 400. Now I couldn't do 0 take away 5. So I needed to borrow a group of 10, but here was also a 0. So I had to go even farther out to my hundreds group. This 900s became 800s, 10 of my 10s. One of my hundreds became 10 tens that I put in the tens place. And then I had to borrow one of those tens and put it in the ones place. So that became 9 tens now. 10 take away 5 is 5, 9 take away 7 was 2, and 8 take away 3 was 5. So 525 was close to my estimate of 500. And for number 6, 508 minus 247. I used compatible numbers here. I made my 508 into 500. I made my 247 into 250. 500 take away 250 is 250. And then I started to subtract. 8 take away 7 is 1. That was easy. I couldn't do 0 take away 4, so I had to borrow a group of 10 from the hundreds. So now I had 400s instead of 500s, and I had 10 in my tens place. So 10 take away 4 was 6. Then 4 take away 2 was 2. So 261 is close to my estimate of 250. So I know my answer here is correct as well. That's it for this lesson. It's just a review of all of the strategies that we've been working on and talking about to help us add and subtract in different ways. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.